As our reading today would suggest, Queen Margaret of Scotland, who happened to be the wife of Malcolm III, King of Scotland, and yes, that Malcolm for Shakespeare fans from the Scottish play. But as we see in our reading, Margaret was a pious woman. That's the sense that we get from that reading from Matthew, that she was a pious woman who took her faith very seriously, who saw it as very valuable. Now, there are many reforms that she brought to the church to try to increase the faith in Scotland, to increase the practice of that faith even. This was right around the end of the 11th century. So some of those things that she brought about were beginning the observance of Lent on Ash Wednesday as opposed to the Monday following, and emphasizing Sunday as a Sabbath and a day of prayer. Now, one of the reforms that Margaret tried to bring about that speaks to me personally is making sure pious believers received Holy Communion regularly. Now, I suspect many in Margaret's day had some of the concerns that many have still, stemming from 1 Corinthians chapter 11, verses 27 through 29 specifically. And it's in that passage that Paul says that we should examine ourselves before communion, lest we be judged. There's truth in those words that we shouldn't forget, but we also shouldn't forget why Paul was saying these words. Many in Corinth were not approaching the Lord's Supper in the right spirit. As Paul says earlier in this chapter, one is hungry and another is drunk. And unfortunately, the latter continues to be an issue in some churches throughout the world to this day. Now, for some, these words of Paul put fear into them. They didn't want to take communion lest they be found wanting. Margaret is correct, though. We take communion so that we might have a share, a part of our Lord Jesus Christ. And that relationship is of the utmost importance to us and to our faith. And we should do everything we can, everything in our power, to nurture that relationship. Because this is our Lord, though, we have nothing to fear in being found wanting. Our Lord died so that we would not be found wanting. The Last Supper is a reminder of that fact. So as long as we take communion with this truth in mind, that our Lord Jesus Christ died for you and for me, to bestow on us the gift of his love and grace. As long as we remember that truth, whenever we approach communion, we will be okay. Margaret wanted her people to have communion as a means of growing closer to our Lord Jesus Christ. We're called to move past any fear that we may have, any fear of our own worthiness, the worthiness which Jesus bestows on us. We can move past any fear we have. We are called to do the same, to do all in our power to move closer to our Lord Jesus Christ, including in the celebration of Holy Eucharist.